Hey guys, how's everything going? Rodrigo coming back to you here. Now, after really last week's episode, I've been getting a lot of feedback, and a lot of people have been asking me, since I've had some experience since I shared some experiences in the property management space, if I can share some of my crazy experiences within the HOA condo management space. You know, for all the people that are getting started, trying to see if this is something that they'll want to really get their feet more wet in. As you know, gosh, I've had over 10 years experience and done so many different roles. And I guess I can share a couple stories. So I do have a couple of crazy ones, and I really want to disclaim that I really want to share them in hope that young people that are looking, or younger people because I'm still pretty young, but younger people that are looking to get into the space are able to really kind of, really see if this is something that they'll like to, get more experience in and really, probably grow a career, So, okay, a little bit about myself. My name is Rodrigo Mosco. I'm a licensed broker associate here in the state of Florida, and I'm also a licensed community association manager for a number of years. I worked as both a property manager in the multifamily space, so like a rental community, and also in the condo HOA management space, so like a homeowners associations or a condo association, both as a property manager and in the corporate side, so in the back as well, right? So closer relationships with everything that's kind of happening in the back. What would I want to, if I could summarize condo and HOA management with one sentence, I would say it's a free-for-all. I mean, it's a free-for-all. So it's craziness. This is really, out of everything I've done, this is probably the craziest job or the craziest sector that I've really had or that I really worked in by far. And the main reason is because there's so many different things that happen, right? So it's a very dynamic space. We work as a management company, so we'll be, the managers, the management company, and we'll have a certain set of employees. But there's also the board of directors, right? So we have the board of directors, that's the board of directors for the community association, either condo or HOA, and essentially they employ us to work for them. Right? So sometimes the employees work for us, sometimes they work directly for the association. All associations are different, all associations are structured different, right? Sometimes they have a golf course, sometimes it's a building, sometimes it's a high-rise building, sometimes it's a mid-rise, sometimes there's a tennis court in the back, tons of things. Sometimes they're responsible for lakes, sometimes there's tons of amenities. It just varies, right? So it all depends to where you live, what type of associations you're familiar with, but these are kind of the ones that we managed, right? So we got a little bit of it all. This space is a little bit different because since you have that duality, right? You have those board of directors and you have the management company. Sometimes we don't know, who's in charge, right? Like, who do we call? Who do we reach out to, right? Who is in charge? And as a manager, a lot of times the question is the same, right? It's like, who is in charge? Are we in charge? Are they in charge? How does this really work? Even though usually these duties are set forth before even these agreements are taken, right? So they kind of tell you what you're responsible for, but sometimes they're asking you to do a lot of things that, or most times they're asking you to do a lot of things that are not necessarily part of your job description, right? So just kind of things to keep in mind, right? So, okay. Couple things that I saw that were crazy. So sometimes, again, we can, as the management company, sometimes the employees work for us, sometimes they don't, right? And these things can add some, dualities to different scenarios, right? I'll have a story that has to do directly with that very soon. You see a little bit of everything here. It's a little crazy when you deal with homeowners associations and condo management. This is a very old industry. And it's old, set in its ways, it's really kind of concrete, and things haven't changed until very recently. And things are getting a shake-up right now, but it's a very, very, very old world. And not necessarily in age, I definitely don't want to say that, but it's just the structure, right? Just things are very antiquated, the thought process. So a couple things to keep in mind, right? So yeah, so one story that particularly sticks with me, that's particularly crazy, is I remember one time there was this maintenance employee, and it was a maintenance technician, worked in a homeowners association. So this maintenance technician had already had a couple run-ins, a couple disagreements with his resident, and you know, they didn't maybe like each other, right? But this time the resident was in the clubhouse, some words were exchanged, and out of the nowhere, the maintenance technician goes ballistic. Goes nuts, goes crazy, goes off on the resident, tells him whatever he wants, goes ballistic on him. And the resident is shocked, you know, I mean, he's quiet, he's kind of confused on what to do. And the resident just like, let me get out of here, because he doesn't really feel like this is going in the right direction, right? So some words were exchanged, the resident wasn't just, you know, scot-free, but you know, that's as far as it had gotten. You know, the maintenance technician was a professional, so he should have maintained his professional stance. But whatever. The homeowner gets in his car, goes home, boom, whatever. And the maintenance technician, I guess, had a couple minutes to reflect, to think about, you know, kind of the situation, and really gets even madder. I guess he decides to escalate things even further. So hops into his golf cart, turns it on, and drives 2.6 miles all the way into this resident until he gets to the resident's home and parks his golf cart, to keep on going even crazier, to keep on screaming at this man and calling him names and insulting him. This guy's going berserk. So he had a moment to reflect and drove 2.6 miles. So he had time in a golf cart. So he had time to think about, you know, what he was going to do, and just come going off and off and off. So as this is happening, the resident calls the management company immediately, escalates things to the regional director, escalates things to the appropriate channels, and he's requesting this guy gets fired immediately, puts him on speaker, we're able to hear him. It's bananas, you know. So president of the company takes charge of this, fires him on the spot. The maintenance technician is fired. You know, he's fired, this is unacceptable, how can this happen? Boom, guy's fired. So I leave at maybe 5 p.m. I had to go visit the community, I was gonna be back, you know, my schedules were pretty long. So by the time that I do come back to the office, maybe like 6:30, almost 7 o'clock, I just rendezvous back to, you know, with, you know, leadership and see where everything's going, right? So far, the maintenance technician have been fired. We got a call from the president of the board of directors, and he's going ballistic. This guy's going nuts, and he cannot understand why we fired his technician. We need to rehire him immediately, and we're letting him know, hey, with what he's done, we have to follow our company procedures. We have to remove someone like that. That's a liability to us, a liability to our insurance, etc. We cannot keep this person employed. And the president is going ballistic, super mad, threatens to fire us once we cancel the agreement. You know how this goes. Whatever. That's the way it was as I left the office that day. The following morning, what I find out is that the president decided to let things be, and the association was going to hire a new employee. So they hired a new maintenance technician, which was the same gentleman, directly to became a direct employee of the association, not longer an employee of the management company. And he was going to get promoted, and he was going to get a 40% raise. So not only he was going to be, after all his actions, he was going to get a raise, and he was going to get promoted. So yeah, nuts. And there's nothing really we can do about it, right? So those are some of the things that happen in this space. And this space is a little kooky, right? This space has some things that sometimes don't make sense, because, you know, the board of directors are a set of volunteers that are volunteering for the community. And sometimes their decisions are the decisions that override the management companies, which are a set of professionals who work in the field of management. Yeah, so that's one of the crazy things that happen. But sometimes things can be crazy, not just kind of externally, things can be crazy internally as well. So one particular story, and this one happened to me. And this was happening to me with two different people, but it's pretty nuts, right? So in my particular position, I was a director. So I went, I got to see a lot of people, you know, and my duties were just to kind of build relationships, right? In different kind of levels. right? At different levels. So one of those levels was the communities, right? I had to go, kind of have outreach, see how people were feeling, see how everything was doing, build relationships, keep selling more, right? You know how it works. So in one particular community, it was a huge, massive community, over 1,000, like 1,600 homes, very big, very nice, a lot of homes. They're very expensive now, but you know, in there it was very amenity rich, right? So they had huge clubhouse with a ton of amenities, soccer field, pools, bar, etc. So many different things, right? So it was a massive, very beautiful. So large staff. So I go there, and as we're pitching other communities and building relationships, which is going great, essentially we start partnering up more with the local team, right? With the team that's on site, the on-site team. And I'm kind of leading the conversations, you know, so my directors or my leadership comes on board as well. But essentially these are my deals, this is my business, right? But essentially, again, since it becomes more than just myself, now my leadership's involved, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of meetings being held, and the on-site staff's being really courteous and jumping in and helping out a lot, right? So cool. So since they're helping out a lot, I get this great idea of like, hey, they're helping, you know, let's buy them pizza, you know, we have some money, you know, like they're being great, like let's help them out too. So we buy a bunch of pizza and kind of create like this nice atmosphere as we're having these meetings, and not just there were a few meetings, so not only was pizza, but in this particular situation was pizza, but over the different course of them, there were different meals, right? But in this particular instance, it was pizza. So yeah, so not a big deal, got everybody pizza, everything's great, whatever. And one of the members of the on-site staff, which is a gentleman, very large gentleman, is like, you know, very polite with you know, just everything, right? Just very polite. You know, since I guess he was my point of contact, you know, texting me and just texting me a little bit more than usual, but it's like, okay, cool, you know, just kind of keeping everything kind of like cordial, right? So whatever. So that led to him just texting me randomly, like, you know, again, I kind of have a director role, so I'm a few positions above him. So out of the blue, he'll just start texting me, right? And I'll think, hey, you know, is everything cool with the community? So like, I think it's business, right? For me, I'm always thinking business. But he's like not trying to do business, you know? So he's like, keeps reaching out, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit weird. So he keeps reaching out, and it's like, you know, I'm a married man. And I appreciate the advances, but you know, I'm very clear with my responses from the beginning. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm with my family. You know, it's after hours. How can I be of assistance? You know, and it's like, you know, just very kind of not really understanding, you know, kind of the responses. And so I guess I maybe went on like 2 or 3 times, right? And then finally, in the 3rd or 4th time, he just reached out, and it was like a Friday, I think on a 7 p.m. He like reaches out like, hey, and I think a little hand, and you know, immediately I'm like, hey, you know, I'm with my wife having dinner, like what's going on, you know? And he kind of understood that, but he kept going, right? He added me on LinkedIn and things like that. So I ended up blocking this gentleman through social media, but this is something that kind of happened in the backspace, right? This is and you know, obviously I made my team aware of what's going on. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? But you know, he should kind of watch himself. You know, obviously I can't be like aggressive or anything like that. You know, it's just kind of like, hey, you know, like this is like, you're very much overstepping your boundary. But obviously, you know, I'm a professional. So I'm like, hey, you know, yeah, you know, just how can I help you? Like, what's going on? It's after hours. Like, how can I be of assistance? Like, are we talking? What's going on? Like, what's the point of you reaching out at like 7 p.m. on a Friday night? Like, what's wrong with you? Whatever. So, but this can also happen in the other way, right? It's, you know, like, again, you know, like I'm married, you know, that's my thing, I'm in a family. So it can also happen in the other direction. So there was another member within that worked in the space, right? Had a prominent position, and you know, it's just very strange, you know. She used to come and try to like just, again, same thing, you know, just from, I guess, from a female perspective. So I've had it happen in both sides. Like I've had males, you know, give me advances, and females, and it's kind of weird because everybody kind of knows you're married. And these things, they're kind of a little common or more common than you will think. And I think that's part of what makes the space really cookie. And I guess that's what leads to the third story. Right? So, okay, my boss, this is the OG. So this is who I report to. This is who everybody reports to. This is the head honcho. So this is the OG, right? So, you know, I spend a lot of time on him. You I spend a lot of time with him. I go out. Part of my job is really to have dinner with him. We literally have dinner at least 3 times out of the week for a number of, for it was like a year. So we get to know each other very well. And it got a little sour towards the end, unfortunately, or closer towards the middle, and then from the middle towards the end was just super sour. But we still maintained a really close relationship because we had to work. So even though maybe our relationship wasn't the best, we still went out to have dinner, again, every single 3 days out of the week. So we were still very intertwined with our lives, which I guess is what made the job a little bit heavier. But my boss was going through certain things with his life. And essentially, he was already a gentleman in his mid-60s. He gets, him and his wife split up, and he stays here, she leaves, goes upstate. Whatever. Things happen. We're all humans. This is part of life, But after maybe a couple months that he just starts going becomes a little bit more intense with work, starts becoming a bit more, so how can I say it? Let's just say he starts meeting people. But some of these people are our vendors, and they are some of our vendors that are doing partnerships with us, and now he's meeting them, right? And he starts, I guess, I don't want to go into no one's business, but I guess he meets a younger vendor that now starts vending or servicing us a lot more, and becomes a key partner in our relationships, right? And it was very strange, right? And these are just things that kind of happen within the space. It became weird because I guess just his relationship started being more kind of since I was there, I would kind of be lumped into it. I've had dinner with his partner several times as well, and pitched as well because since now she was servicing us, that meant that I had to make sure she was servicing all of our clients, and different things within the scope, right? Really building relationships. This space is different, right? And I guess my conclusion is that if you're going to join it, you kind of have to be prepared for the black, the white, and all the rainbow, because you're really going to see it's a people business. The real estate, the structure, accounting, the back end, you learn this, and this ultimately it's gonna help, and it's gonna help in your career. You need to know the technical knowledge, but really what's gonna build you up is who you know, the relationships that you build, a lot of the backs that you normally scratch, and a lot of times you might not necessarily get ahead because some people might owe you. Sometimes people might need to scratch your back, and they remember that, and they might not let you move up. So this is a very small industry, very small. We all know each other. We will run into each other over and over and over again. And I guess that's the best part, right? That we're able to work over and over. But since it's such a small industry, man, you'll get to know everybody. And as you become a property manager, you understand that it's not just the board, it's not just the internal management, it's not just the vendors, it's not just the CAI, it's not just other managers. This is an entire universe, and it's a really cool one. But yeah, I guess also another thing is, yeah, you're gonna eat a lot. So I guess prepare yourself for that, because there's a lot of meals. Everything has to do with dinner. Everything has to do with lunch, brunch, a lot of golf courses. But it's a pretty cool space. I hope you guys enjoyed some of my stories. This really weren't all these horror stories. Some were a little bit better than others, but definitely they're all a little bit kooky and some of the crazy stuff that can happen. So I hope my experiences are able to help you guys out. Click like, subscribe, and definitely check in for the next one. If you guys have any ideas, make sure you leave comments, down below, and anything you might want to see, of course, just please reach out. All right, guys, thank you very much.